remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." I suppose we all thought that one way or another.
Welcome to my discussion on nuclear proliferation and its implications on global power politics and its importance in international relations. Nuclear proliferation is a large area of discussion in world politics, and many international relations scholars have weighed in on the topic over the years. This video essay argues that although nuclear warheads are the most thorough military weapon that a modern nation may have in its arsenal, they will likely never be used again in their physical form. With that said, this essay does not believe that they are useless. This video argues that although nuclear weapons will likely never be used again in direct nation-state combat, they are still immensely important power politics chess pieces, and the number that a nation possesses matters greatly in the world of international relations. To begin, let's start with current theoretical understandings of nuclear proliferation. Realist opinions have dominated the international relations literature towards nuclear power, and the reasoning for this is because the theoretical lens provides a justification for the pursuit of power. Classical realists at their heart believe that anarchy and survival are at the root of the world. Therefore, if one wants to survive due to the harsh realities of the anarchic world, pursuing power is the solution. In the modern era, nuclear warheads are the pinnacle of military destruction, and most realists argue that pursuing this technology is a rational endeavor for survival. It should be noted that the realism school of thought can be split under many different opinions. This conversation will discuss offensive and defensive realism. Offensive realists like John Mearsheimer, for example, believe that the first concern of states is to maximize power at all costs, as every nation-state looks after their own self-interest. Although this understanding is grounded in some reality, this theoretical approach is not peaceful or an optimistic outlook on the world, and this needs to be noted. A world rooted in offensive realism is an immensely insecure place. This is a world where everyone points a gun at each other and waits for someone to step out of line. And in a modern era, where the guns are now nuclear weapons, this is a very scary reality. The defensive realist approach is grounded in a similar sentiment, but differs slightly when viewing the main goals of international players. Defensive realists argue that the main goal of nation-states is not to maximize their power. Although this is a top priority and this is something that nations entertain, their main goal is to maintain their position within the international system. Kenneth Waltz is a prominent defensive realist, and he uses a different rationale than offensive realism to explain the spread of nuclear proliferation. Waltz used rational deterrence theory. This theory suggests that once more than one nation-state possesses nuclear weapon capabilities, the likelihood of nuclear war diminishes greatly, as nuclear weapons result in a zero-sum outcome for the quote-unquote winner. Therefore, over time, nuclear technology will spread, but as nations become capable of weaponizing it, the chances of nuclear war go down drastically as leaders are rational and understand what happens if they're used. This theory suggests that although nuclear weapons are incredibly scary, peace will be a byproduct of them as they are too dangerous to be used. Rational deterrence theory is an interesting take on nuclear proliferation and definitely contributes valuable points to the proliferation debate. There is no perfect ideological way of looking at nuclear proliferation. Realists argue that nuclear weapons will spread, and this is simply the way of the world. On the other side of the spectrum, liberal understandings of nuclear proliferation argue against the spread of warheads and for the demobilization of nuclear weaponry. Liberal democracy is a very attractive political apparatus, and it promotes domestic freedom and political stability. Many nations worldwide are democratic entities, and the incentives for these types of nations to acquire nuclear weapons are not at the forefront. Democratic nations are known for not going to war with each other due to the democratic peace proposition, and all democracies are known to directly or indirectly support each other in conflict as they all share the same values of peace, freedom, and economic prosperity. The largest democracies internationally already possess nuclear weaponry, and this is essential to note for deterrence purposes. Take the US as an example. The liberal democratic approach asks nations to give up their nuclear interests because doing so speaks volumes towards other democratic nations worldwide, which in turn strengthens the global reach of the liberal argument. South Africa, Ukraine, Belarus, and Kazakhstan are nations that entertained non-proliferation as a step towards liberal principles of peace. Multiple nations giving up their nuclear capabilities greatly shows the power that the liberal paradigm has towards the nuclear proliferation problem. This essay does not solely agree with any of these political paradigms. Each outlook provides an interesting insight on the proliferation debate, and much can be learned from all perspectives. This essay argues that nuclear weaponry will likely never be physically used again, and the reasoning behind this is largely based in the rational deterrence theory and the liberal political paradigm. With that said, this essay's main addition to the study of international relations is that owning a nuclear arsenal is a vastly important component for power politics, and this component is valuable against both positive and non-positive nuclear nations. Nuclear weapons are actively used for deterrence, and this is a critically important political use that these entities have that cannot be simply overlooked. The Cold War is a notable example for deterrence, but a less common and equally as important example is the ongoing conflict between Pakistan and India. India is roughly 3 times as large as Pakistan, yet they have had a territorial conflict since 1947. Both nations have gone through 3 major wars, but the conflict is still present and is currently at a stalemate. One of the main reasons why India has not yet made a significant push on Pakistan is the fact that Pakistan has an active nuclear arsenal. Although the Pakistan government has never officially stated the number of warheads it has in its arsenal, Pakistan actively continues the development of nuclear programs, and it is approximated that Pakistan has more warheads than India. This stalemate is fascinating to review, especially when looking at the importance of nuclear weapons in the context of international relations and power politics. In this example, you have one nation that is unquestionably bigger and has significantly more people. But both nations know that rationally speaking they cannot use nuclear weapons on each other. However, due to the technicality that Pakistan has more than India, and the idea that they are willing to send them if they are aggressed upon by a nuclear positive nation, Pakistan has an elevated political position over India. This elevated position is not rooted in other power politics avenues such as a more advanced economy, a better geographical location, or military allies. The fact remains, even though Pakistan is a smaller nation, due to their nuclear arsenal and the number of weapons that they have within it, they have remained sovereign. Every rational individual knows that it is not within your nation's interest to use nuclear weapons. Yet, I argue that the number that your nation has directly speaks to your power on the international plane. This is a perplexing thought that cannot be broken down easily, but this idea is directly related to the study of international relations and power politics. To state it bluntly, even with all the liberal incentives to give up nuclear weapons, giving up nuclear warheads is an extremely rare occurrence. In the eyes of a realist, giving away your nuclear power is like giving away poker chips for free. Doing so gives your nation no benefit towards their survival within the international game. As discussed previously, South Africa, along with 3 former Soviet republics, are the only places in history that have ever given up their arsenals. These actions can be viewed as progressive, peace-oriented endeavors that show the strength of the liberal paradigm, or as blunders from a realist power politics lens. The answer honestly depends on who you ask. This is why this topic is so important and riveting. In today's climate, China, India, North Korea, Pakistan, the UK, and Russia are all thought to be increasing their nuclear stockpiles. The only nuclear power known to be slowly decreasing its arsenal is the US, but they single-handedly possess enough nuclear warheads to individually destroy the world, so them slowly degrading their program is nothing more than a show of good faith to other nations worldwide. They are still very capable of nuclear destruction. This essay has argued that nuclear weapons and nuclear proliferation are important topics in the study of international relations. Moreover, that nuclear weapons have a direct impact on how and why nations act and react to each other. Thus, nuclear warheads actively contribute to global power politics. This essay reviewed multiple differing theoretical paradigms and how they view nuclear power importance. In addition, this video essay reviewed international issues such as the ongoing India and Pakistan conflict and discussed how nuclear weapons are not only at the heart of that stalemate, but the number of warheads between the 2 nations matters significantly. This essay does not necessarily agree or disagree with any of the mentioned theoretical paradigms. Rather, this essay uses their points on nuclear proliferation to further the discussion of nuclear weapons and why it is important to study them and their differing uses. In conclusion, This video essay argues that although it is unlikely that nuclear weapons will be used again, the number of nuclear weapons that a particular nation state has directly speaks towards the potential power of that nation, regardless of other factors, such as their economy, location, allies, or geographical size.